Bob's Boneyard, where we're all about barkers, blood, books, boxes, and burps. Today I'm going to be reviewing the horror movie Old. For those of you that are new to my channel, when I review horror movies, I give it a blood scale rating on a 5-pint blood scale to let you guys know how bloody and gory it is, and you can know how much blood to expect in the movie. So Old is a new movie. It's in theaters. I just saw it recently, so it's 2021. It's directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and he was also one of the writers of it. And the premise of the movie is that it has these tourists on an island who are rapidly getting older. Hence the title Old. I think one of the main horror elements in this movie is sci-fi because of how they are getting older, which I'll explain about later. On my blood scale, I would give this 2 pints of blood out of 5 because it doesn't have a lot of excessive blood. There is one particular scene that I'll go into detail about that was pretty graphic and bloody, but it was only one little moment and for a very quick time. But throughout most of the movie, it's not very bloody. So now I'm gonna go into the details of the movie, and it's gonna include spoilers. So if you want to watch the movie first, now would be a good time to stop this video and go watch it. Otherwise, if you wanna know the details, stick around. So at the beginning, the main family, it's this mom, dad, and daughter and son, and they get to this island, and the mom has a condition. We don't know exactly what it is yet, but she has a condition, and that's why they're at this island. And the first horror discovery, the son is swimming in the water, and then he turns around and he sees that there's a dead body floating next to him. So that's the first horror part that happens. He runs out screaming, and everyone's like, what happened to this girl? She's just dead in the water. A little bit later in the movie, we see that the body has already decomposed, which somebody in there says that it should take like 7 years for a human body to decompose, but it took like a few minutes, and it showed kind of her bones, but it wasn't very visual. There's this one guy who has another condition, and I think he either has dementia or something like that, and he's a doctor, and he out of nowhere just slices this guy in the face, and it's, you know, bloody because it's a slice in the face, but then it heals like almost instantly. So then he just has a scar and the blood is already gone, and it is again showing that they're aging super fast and they're healing super fast too. Then we find out that what the mom has is a tumor, and she can feel the tumor growing inside of her stomach rapidly. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and within just a few seconds it goes from the size of a golf ball to the size of a softball. So the doctor there, she's laying down, they slice her open, and again the wound heals, and they're like, okay, well that's not gonna work. So instead, they try it again, they slice it open, and everyone puts their fingers in her and they hold it open so that it won't heal. And the guy digs into her and pulls out this large tumor that when she first got there was only like a teeny little thing, but it's this big now. And they stick their fingers out of her, and then it heals, and she was like knocked out, but she woke up and she like felt better. So it was good that they got it out. That was the part that I think is probably the most gruesome, because it shows the knife like going in and slicing in it, and it shows them pulling the tumor out. So that was the most gruesome, but it was very brief. The little kids, there was one that was like 3 and one that was like 6, and they're growing up very, very rapidly, and now they're teenagers out of nowhere, and their parents are like, who are you? But they go off on their own, and while the parents are dealing with everything, they have a good time with each other, and she comes out and she's 5 months pregnant, and a few minutes later goes into labor, and it's all dramatic, and they were like, oh, we were just playing, because they were 4 a minute ago, so they don't really know why that happened. But she gives birth, and then a minute later the baby's dead because it died from lack of attention, because of how fast time is going, because they didn't talk to the baby for an entire minute. It died from lack of attention. There was also a part where the dog died, which is really sad, but they didn't show it, and that made me really, really happy. They just talked about it, because dogs, they don't live as long as humans, so the dog died pretty early on in the film. but I'm glad that they didn't show it because I don't really think that's necessary. I really love dogs and would have been really upset about that. But I understand why they added it because it was necessary to the plot. And then later, the doctor that has dementia, he randomly stabs this other dude to death. It's pretty bloody, but he's just stabbing and stabbing him and he dies. And that was a little bloody. It wasn't that bad though. The little girl that became a teenager that gave birth, she tries to climb up the cliff because this beach is surrounded by a cliff. They can't go through it because it disorients them, and every time they try to escape, they black out. So instead, she's like, I'm gonna try to climb over it. So she gets towards the top, they're all cheering her on, but then you can see that she's starting to like fall asleep, and then she blacks out, and she falls off the cliff and dies. Another fun little gruesome part, another lady has a condition, something about calcium in her bones, and she has to take medicine for it. But we see her and she gets like a hunchback, and then she starts like getting like deformed and stuff, and she's in this cave in the rocks because they can go in it, they just can't go very far before they black out, but they're all like kind of just hanging out in there. It's her and the two main kids, the brother and sister, and they see her, they light a match, and she's like, put that out, don't look at me, because she's all ugly and deformed. So then they run away and they hide, and she kind of runs after them, and like she's breaking her bones, but they're healing super quickly. So like she'll break her hand in the wrong direction and then it heals, and it's stuck like that. And then that was just happening until she was so deformed, her bones were all over the place, and it visually looked really cool. So eventually she's this big old deformed person and she dies like that, and it's creepy, but it's really cool looking. So then the doctor with dementia tries to kill the mom and the dad, and the mom grabs a rusty knife and slices him with it. And it's like rust, like it's like completely copper and gross looking. So the cut heals, but he has a rust infection now. And you see it spread through his entire body super quickly until he's all yucky looking, like his skin kind of turned black and shriveled and stuff because of the rust going through his system, and then he died of that infection. And then, so later on, a few minutes later, the mom and dad are getting older and older and older and wrinkly. The dad starts to go blind, the mom starts to go deaf, and eventually they die of old age. Pretty mellow and tame. At the end of the movie, the kids figure out the secret of the island. They figure out where they need to go, the only path to get out. And it explains in the end why they were all on this island. All of them had a condition. It explains why all of them have some weird condition, like the mom having a tumor, the doctor having this dementia. There was a previous girl that had a lot of seizures and she ended up dying of a seizure. It was really quick. It explains why they had all of these people together on this island and what was up with the island. So by the time these kids find out the secret, they are in their 40s, like late 40s. But luckily they make it just in time and they get out. And it sort of sucks because yesterday they were children and now they're gonna finish out their lives in their 40s. So their life was kind of halfway taken away from them, so that's a bummer. But they were the sole survivors of the island. If you're interested in finding out the reason, go ahead and watch Old. It's still in theaters. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this movie, Old, and I'll see you next time.